And what you're saving is the pieces of yourself that you have not been able to access until you go through that darkness first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I believe that you don't really know light until you experience the darkness. Even going back to the Hermetic text, when it talks about God being the all, you can't say that since you're walking in light energy that you're plugged into God if you're ignoring half of God,
Right.
which is the darkness. So that's part of the beauty of going down to that dark side, seeing that trauma and all that stuff. Once you get past that, you see the things that generated those things, which is God also. Once we understand that everything has polarity, that's when life begins to happen. Like that's when a man understands his higher mind and lower mind, or his ego self and Christ self work in harmony. That's when man can go to the second marriage of man and see that him being in his masculinity, his wife being in his femininity. Yeah. That's the true marriage. Right. That's what he can go to his brother saying, you know what, I'm a whole man and I can see other whole men like me, and we can have a third level. You know, once a man understands that polarity, life happens, bro. Like I always say, man, to wake up and ask himself, who am I and where am I going? Like if I could leave my son one thing, it will be that. It will be to wake up every day, ask yourself, who are you, where are you going, and what is your own personal truth?
So my question for you is, so who are you?
Welcome to the Warrior's Way Home podcast.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Warrior's Way Home podcast. I'm your co-host Edmund. My brother Travis here.
What's up?
And we have a lovely guest today. If it was not for this man, we would not have this podcast. Our brother Soul Immortal.
Oh man, Soul in the building.
Man, feels good to be here, man. I've been wanting to be on y'all's podcast for a minute now, bro.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm loving what y'all doing, brother. Loving it, man.
So we are actually here in Arizona for a men's retreat that Soul put on for us. We all got the chance to come out here in Arizona, enjoy this beautiful scenery, fellowship with other brothers, and just make sure that we're here to strengthen each other as best that we can. And man, we just wanted to sit here, ask you a couple of questions, get some perspective from you about how your journey has gone, what manhood means to you. Talk about your book here, A Singular Truth. I highly recommend you go and get this book.
Absolutely, man. That and his YouTube channel, I mean, it's got, for our audience and the guys who are doing what we're doing, you just got to know that these two things have influenced both of us a huge amount. I mean, listening to his perspective and the way he breaks things down, I mean, he's that, if you didn't have that daddy, it's like, if you didn't have that older brother, right. You know, sometimes knock you upside the head and tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
Right.
This is the dude, this is the book.
For sure. So, so tell us, for those who aren't familiar with your work, which of course we're going to link all your stuff in there as well.
Absolutely.
How did you get started, man? Where are you coming from?
Man, how I got started on the mission I'm on right now, man. It simply started from a desire to do it, man. But you know, I was just in that procrastination mode, and just a certain amount of things happen in life, man. Crossing paths with the right people, reading certain literature. To one day, man, I said at some point, if I don't start now, then at some point I'm going to be living in regret until I die. And once I understood and felt what that regret would feel like, it just fueled me to start moving. And that's when I really began to step into my mission or my purpose, man. So it was the deciding factor was for me was feeling what that regret would be like in the future, brother.
Absolutely. So what brought us here, you know, the event we're doing is for our group, the Power Circle. So, you know, for those of you guys who don't know, the Power Circle is a group of, you know, like-minded, I don't want to say enlightened beings just on this journey together, you know, figuring ourselves out, figuring out our path, and coming together to make this world a better place, to be honest with you. So what was that initial, I mean, we know, but what was that initial start of the Power Circle? And what brought that kind of into being that brought, you know, us together in this moment?
Yeah, you know what, the Power Circle started, it's funny how it started. The Power Circle started by, I made a video, I believe it was about, you know, some kind of relationship type question.
Yeah.
And we just decided to take the question offline onto my Patreon channel. And it started from one conversation that led to another conversation. And before we all, knew it, it just evolved into like, you know what, like this is new. Us men coming together, having a conversation without the outside world.
Yeah.
And it just evolved into what it is now. But the way it started was just, you know, us deciding to separate ourselves from the masses. Let's get in a closed circuit and have this conversation one-on-one.
Right.
Having no idea that it was going to do what it's doing now, man.
Right. For sure, man. It's been amazing.
So we say here at Warriors Way Home that our mission is to create well-rounded modern-day men. But this is, and restore that warrior mindset. But this is how we're doing it, by being able to fellowship with other brothers and filling in those gaps where, maybe sometimes you're not good with your spirituality or your finances, or how do I work with my family? How do I communicate with my lady?
How do I be a man?
How do I be a man in general? These are all questions that we sought answers for ourselves. And I think our first episode, we said that we wouldn't have met if it wasn't for the Power Circle.
No, yeah.
So we definitely want to say thank you for that. Being able to bring that platform and that content to us individually, which brought us together.
Beautiful thing, bro.
And working off of that, speaking of that dad piece, one of my questions was, in a lot of your YouTube channels, I hear you talk about your dad quite a bit, and it's been really impactful to hear you talk about him, because it shows, it's very obvious that you had a lot of respect for your dad in a major way, which is saying a lot, because I'm guessing it's been a while since he passed.
Oh yeah, 30+ years.
And you can tell there's still that impact that he's having on you. So one of the questions I had was, with him, what age did he pass away?
When I was 12 years old.
When you were 12?
Yeah, and he was 43.
Okay. And 12, heading into that teenage year, that's rough for a young man to head into, with the dad, let alone with having that, kind of almost taken away from you at that point. What did you feel like now, looking back now, because I'm sure it was different then, looking back now, did it feel like there was almost like a gap missed? I'm sure there was in a certain sense, but as far as becoming a man, the man that you are, did you feel like you had to kind of figure it out on your own, or did those lessons that he taught you up until 12 kind of still guide you on that?
It's weird how it happened, because once I became an adult, once I became 25, 35, I could look back and see what he taught me between birth and 12 years old, and I still remembered it. But it didn't really make sense until I was older. So that's when I really started giving him props, man, because I said, it's amazing how he taught me so much in a small time that still impacted me on down the road.
Yeah.
So that's why I still give my father so much credit. Now at the time, from 13 to 21, not having him there, but it was something I don't wish on anybody.
Was there any anger there? Because I know some guys, I hear them talk about that situation like that, and they're like, there was a bit of anger, not maybe like a huge one, but there was a piece of them that was like almost angry that he wasn't there to help guide him through. I didn't have any anger for my father. The only time anger crept in is when I became an older man and I began to see or either see or learn about the imperfections in my father. And when I say that he was actually a man,
that he was actually
the
human.
man he was, not the father. He was the man he was.
Just really realizing that he was human, because looking at my father, even when I think about him between birth and 12 years old, he was a superhero.
Greek and honest.
So it's like he can do no wrong. So for me to hear about one kink in his armor, I'm like, oh, now I'm angry. But I had to just realize, oh, he's just human.
Yeah,
he's just human, man.
Definitely.
But again, man, what he taught me between 0 and 12. And I understand now, he used to drill things in me, like do things a certain way, like throw this in the trash and do it again, like make it right the first time. Now I understand why he was teaching me those things, man, because they stick with me now.
Definitely, that's amazing.
Absolutely. One of the questions I have was, what were some of the principles that were most important to you during that awakening stage? So we talked about how you had a mentor in your father and being able to bring you to that point. But once you were on your own, or even when you started to get into that awakening phase, kind of what you call stepping out of becoming a common man, what was there anything? Well, actually, I would just say overall, what kind of brought you to that point once you became your own man?
Yeah, as far as like leaving the point of wanting to be the common man,
yeah,
I would say, man, I just began to see the writing on the wall. Like I began to see the generation before me. I began to see the results they were getting in life. By the time they were, 40s, 50s, 60s, I saw the result they were getting, the misery they were living in. I said, I don't want that. And I could see the divide between people that were, I don't want to say the word thriving, but the people that had peace, as opposed to the people that were just living confused. But I'll say this, man. I knew at a very young age that I would be separating myself from the masses. And I didn't understand, for example, like when I talk about my truth, I understood. I remember I was either 6 or 7 years old. I remember being in Sunday school class and saying to myself, I hear what she's saying, and I understand this is what we're all about. But one day, this is not going to be my truth, and I know it's going to be part of my mission to shine light on this new truth. I knew that from a young age. So when I started separating myself, it was really not like a awakening, separating from an old world. It was more like now I'm returning to where I'm originally, this original state, man.
Sure. So you were also in the military. You were in the Army. How long were you in the Army for?
I did 6 years in the Army.
6 years in the Army. Awesome. So I call it a super Army brat. So mom, dad, stepdad,
Wow.
all did 20 in the Army.
Wow.
So at times it felt like I was in.
Yeah, no doubt.
But it was when I talked to people who weren't in the military, it was a whole different dynamic.
Yeah.
It was like when you're around that environment, it's like every guy I met that came to our house was like G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Little kids, you see this big dude, 6 foot, bald head, boom. I was like, it's like a damn G.I. Joe dog, man. Yeah. It's like I actually went to go in, but that didn't end up happening. But that it creates a different mindset in most people that you think about things a different way. You're more the discipline is on a whole another level with a lot of these guys. How did being in the military kind of shape your world with that? Do you think it made you look at things in a different way than the majority of men?
It did. Well, I won't say different than the majority of men. What the military did for me was fill that gap between 13 years old and 21 years old. Because even though like my mom dated and she dated a very good man, the fact that he wasn't my father, I couldn't really learn from him. So I just went through my teens really just trying to wing it.
Gotcha.
And really me picking up masculinity, to be honest, was from the dope boys. I'm like that has to be what masculinity is.
Which a lot of guys do.
Yeah, that's common.
When they don't have that at home, the first guys they see that are going to show them any love, a lot of times it's the dudes on the block.
Yeah.
It's like they're going to be the ones like, come on, man, let me show you how to move. It's like, clean your shoes off. Like, get your hair right. It's like, what you doing?
Yeah.
Wash your face.
Exactly. So when I joined the military, it was a breath of fresh air, man, because now I was in the room with a lot of guys that were living a straight way, but a lot of them were raised by their fathers. And it was a culture shock to me. Yeah. And I'm looking and I'm understanding what's real weird, man, is where I understood how to start being a man. Yeah. Was from a brother, man, who was younger than me. A brother named John Lamax. He's passed away now. I served with him. He was my sergeant. He was younger than me. And I didn't understand what was taking place at the time. But I would get up on the weekends, man, go over to John's house. We were working on cars. And just to watch John, I was married, just to watch John interact with his wife, his kids, the way he worked around the house was foreign to me. And then to be serving with other brothers that were raised by their fathers, I just started to pick up those things that I didn't even know were not there, man. Right. So the military raised me. The military filled that gap between 13 and 21.
Oh yeah, because a lot of guys go in at 18, and so with that being said, would you suggest the military for like a younger guy looking for some of those pieces? Because you're a lot of guys say that if you don't have that, guys get in trouble all the time, and or it used to be this way. I don't know if they still do it, where you would, if you got dragged in front of court, you had enough trouble. They were like, hey, you either go to military, or you go to jail. Yeah. It's like you're almost 18. It's like you're either when you turn 18, you're either going to military or you're going to jail. Now, a lot of guys went in the military because of that, because they got so much trouble in these streets because of stuff that was going on at home, not having dad. Or dad wasn't representing and showing them the way, or even dad was out there in the streets like that, to the point where they got in so much trouble that eventually it was like, hey, army, jail. And a lot of guys go into the army and they say that actually really like saved them. Yeah. In that instance,
I would say I'm not saying I would really recommend the military. I love the military, but I would say if a young man doesn't have someone to reach out to that's living, what we have to understand is that like a lot of men like us right now, if a younger man came to us that was 16, 18, 21, 23 and said, hey man, you know what, like I didn't have this type of person in my life, I need some guidance, we would bring him up under our shoulder. But when we were 18, we didn't know that. Right. We were like, well, if Pops is not here, then I gotta figure it out on my own. I would say if a young man doesn't have a neighbor or an uncle or
Power circle.
Power circle to be associated with, the military is definitely a way to go.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna pick up those things with no no effort at all. You're gonna pick up that masculine,
Oh yeah, and I think having even channels like this or your
Yeah.
channel is like, because I didn't have there wasn't YouTube when I was growing up. It's
Exactly.
like, so I'm in that. I mean, we're both in that in between age where it's like we remember before the internet, but we grew up having access to it. But when I was a teenager, I didn't have YouTube. I didn't have podcasts to listen to about masculinity or anything like that. It was just like you're winging it, bro.
Yeah,
Like you say, I'm just going.
Yeah, but the thing is that because just sitting there talking about it, it's like, man, young brothers have an advantage because if they need that masculinity, YouTube is right there. So it seems convenient, but at the same time, both entities are on YouTube.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So they get on, they get on YouTube and get
into that darkness, the black pill,
just as
get
easy.
hard into that red pill. We talk about that that or just go the opposite complete way. It's like, oh, this is how you be a man. You cater to everybody else, but you don't worry about yourself. Or you're supposed to be you're supposed to feel and show your feelings all the time and be not be controlled with and not be stoic, you're supposed to feel. That's the most important thing is how you feel,
Right.
And
So
not
magnified.
exactly. So there's those two, like you said, those two entities.
Yeah.
It's like
So how, as for a common man, because we're a little bit privileged, as in we've already done some of the harder parts of healing ourselves, figuring out how do we align our thoughts, actions, and emotions. For somebody who is just starting out, if they wanted to get into a space where they can't trust the people who are around them, but they want to build a community that will help them become the better man that they can be, how does a common man discover or build his own power circle?
I would say, man, that like I always say, a man must know two things. A man must know who he is and where he's going. I think once he establishes that and says, you know what, first off, let me realize that something is not right. Like I understand that there's a collective conscious way of thinking, and I understand that there's a small group of people that just move to their own beat. Has nothing to do with their financial status. Like they just move to something different. I think a man should first say, you know what, who am I, where am I going, and start moving in that direction. And at that point, don't associate with anybody except people that are moving in that same direction. And I think a circle would just form around him. And a circle may not be an organization of people getting on Zoom calls and having meetings. It may be a group of people that first start at we taking a 20-minute, 30-minute break, and 2 or 3 brothers out of 200 are going to a certain part of the parking lot having a conversation that's healing them, and they don't even understand.
Basketball court,
anything,
gym,
So
dojo. Just like minds, man.
I always say I've always had 2 power circles because when I moved to Colorado, my coach from back in Ohio, he was already here. And he was the only person that I knew in all the whole state. So he was an hour from me. So he was already teaching. I was already familiar with the style. So it was easy for me to go and kind of assimilate to what he had already built. But Travis has been there. Every time I'm there, man, we'll have like an hour and a half or even a 3-hour workout session. But we'll sit there and talk for 30, 45 minutes after the fact. You're trying to recover, you're relaxing and saying, all right, we had a good time. But then we'll just get into life talk. You know what I'm saying? And the best way to do that sometimes is to exhaust yourself. You exhaust the body. Now all you can do is talk. All you can do is get your spirit out. You know what I mean?
That's heavy.
That's a great point, man. Like, because like you said, and a lot of people are like, church or this or that. It's like, but a lot of those places is, from what I've seen, at least for me growing up, a lot of those places weren't the best place for me to get that because it was almost like it was a show. Right?
Yeah.
It's like it wasn't. I didn't feel like I ran into like real people, and even at a young age, I was like, man, you're fake as hell, bro. Yeah. It's like you're not showing me who, because I see what you're talking about, but then when I hear you when you don't know I'm listening,
right?
Yeah,
because I usually sit back and I usually listen when I'm more than I'm talking. So I'm listening to what I'm watching this, but I'm listening to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm watching you over here when you're talking up in the pulpit doing all that stuff, but I hear you when you're out in the parking lot.
Get you at the potluck. What you talking about?
Yeah. I heard that phone call you had when you're on your way to the car. When you're well, fuck you. I heard that.
Yeah.
But up here you're Mr.
Right.
Living through the truth.
You walk around with your Bible like this.
Yeah.
It's like, but when you're out there, you're getting it. It's like, dude, if you're that way, just be that
just
way.
Be that.
It's like, don't try to do that for me. Show me who you really are. That's the one I want to know.
I think it's easier to do that when you have a mutual suffering. Because when you're in the gym, you're pushing weights or you're throwing kicks or you're actually like, sparring with each other. all right, you're helping me with holes in my game. I'm helping you with holes in your game.
Yeah.
But now we can have that conversation of it. It's like it's trust. You know what I'm saying? Like if we're both going through, like we are able to communicate on that level. Like, oh man, my girl left me or she cheated or whatever. Oh man, I know what you're talking about. I've been through the same thing. But sometimes you need to have that camaraderie going into that, and then it makes the whole relationship stronger. You know what I'm saying? It's if I can teach you something or you teach me something, now we're sharpening each other, like we say, iron sharpening iron. I think it's hard for people to let that guard down until they're in a situation like that. You know, you see it all the time in disaster situations or movies or whatever, or like post-apocalyptic things where it's, you know, once people are trying to survive together, then they have that camaraderie. They build the community from that. Walking Dead. Walking Dead is a perfect example. Like we are obviously in this terrible situation. How can I help you? How can you help me?
No
you
doubt.
know what I mean?
No doubt. That makes sense, man.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, life kind of at a certain point will beat the ego out of you.
Right.
You know,
that part.
With martial arts, with like boot camp or everything like that, that ego goes away because you're both, like I said, you're both at that. You might have started here, but you get brought down here real quick. You know, it's like it's real easy to be, you know, ego driven and like this until you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Then, you know, that ego isn't so high anymore after that. You know.
Yeah.
So
one of the questions that I had that it's a not a minor question, but it's something that's always stuck in my mind when I started watching your content. You would always say at ease at the beginning of every video. So, and I always like, it felt like a military thing that you were saying, but I want you to explain like how did that come up and why do you use it?
Well, at ease, man, of course, and it's evolved over time. Of course, at ease, man, it came from my military roots. And when I first started saying it, you know, that's what it was about. It was about commanding, like, hey, you know what, at ease, like whatever you're doing, stop what you were doing. Now we're about to have
God
feels.
Yeah.
But it's evolved into something that I use personally on a regular basis. Like if I'm sitting at home, man, and hard times are coming my way, it's like now I'm speaking into the ether. Now I'm speaking from my God power, and I'm speaking to everything that has vibration at ease, which gives me power over it now.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what I'm saying? Like when I'm at home and I'm feeling, whether it's I feel fear coming on, whether I have, you know, something happening in life, I'm just speaking at ease. And I mentioned that in the book. I'm just speaking at ease to this illusion of a world where I can now manipulate it. You know what I'm saying?
It's like
that's what it's evolved into, man.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's something that I think most people don't realize they have the power to do. People don't realize they have the power to control their environment.
Yes.
And I think we had said it at some point.
It's a victim mentality.
Nowadays.
It's like it's the race to victimhood now. It's like I'm more of a victim than you are. It's like I'm black, or I'm a woman, or I'm a black gay woman who's who's a penguin on the weekends. It's like I'm more of a victim than you, and I'm oppressed. I'm so oppressed. You know, it's like you don't understand my world because I'm oppressed. I'm more oppressed than you.
But a lot of it goes back to Dr. Massaro, the rice experiment.
Yeah.
You know, when he has the rice and he's speaking different things. So if we have the power to speak it to rice and make one mold and make one stay right or make one stay neutral, then we have the power to speak into every physical thing that vibrates. So when we speak, you know, I feel like when I speak at ease into something, they say, you know what, I know you're vibrating at a certain rate, but if I tell you to be still, now I'm just walking in my God authority. Now I can manipulate whatever's going on because I've spoken that into the universe. You know?
Definitely.
That's so crazy, man. Because you mentioned the ether. So like one of the things when I started doing where I got really, really big into my my studies was the elements of how the world works. You know what I'm saying? Like if you really dig into it, that the world is just made of the same 4 elements, just in different combinations, right? But the one thing that we have the most control over is the ether. The ether is the unseen. What is the most hectic thing that we have that is unseen? Our mind. So coming from a place of power, which is also the kind of the top of that totem pole to kind of bring it down, is crazy, because you are just trying to not control. Well, yeah, you're trying to control and harness the power of what's around you, but you got to start up here first. Starting with your mind is one of the most important things, because if you can wrangle your mind, it makes everything else a little easier. One of my favorite quotes from, I think it's The Art of War by Sun Tzu, is like, if you know yourself, you will win 10,000 battles. One thing that's been coming up for me lately, especially on the way here, was 10,000 battles don't mean I'm fighting 10,000 people. You know, a lot of our battles happen in our mind. So if we, and that's an everyday thing, right? Like you get no rest from your mind. It's damn near impossible. But doing things like at ease, or realizing that it's something that's mental going on, and it's not so much physical or tangible, but it's something that's going on in your spirit. That's a better way of kind of combating it or realizing that, hey, I have more control than I think I do. You know what I mean? So
Most
that's
definitely.
extremely powerful.
Most definitely.
So kind of in the same vein of using your mind to kind of control your circumstances, we talk about the inner sanctum. Explain that to the for people who are unaware. What is the inner sanctum?
But that inner sanctum, man, is by far the most personal space a man can have, in my opinion. And what the inner sanctum is, man, it's just that sacred space inside of man where only his soul, his spirit exists, and God. Like it's the deepest part that we can experience in the physical world. And this is a part of man that not even his brother is allowed to put energy in. Not even his wife is allowed to. It's almost like if it was a physical room, it would be that one bedroom that no one can go in except you. You go in, you take your shoes off, you're clean when you walk in, and when you walk in there, you're in a completely different element where only you and God are in there. That's what it is, except it's on the inside. And that's where both worlds meet. That's where man's ego mind and his spirit mind communicates. That's really where the marriage of man takes place. And when I say that, meaning we have this ego mind, meaning how we function in this third dimensional plane, but that part of us that's limited, that's limitedness, whatever, it's
Limitless.
unlimited, the part of us that's directly connected to God, that Christ consciousness. That's where the two entities can come in together and have that fellowship and come together on one singular truth. In other words, the ego mind can say, you know what, I'm dealing with all this. I see my limitations. I see my cap. But the spirit mind can say, you know what, there is no cap. This is where they can have that communication and form that marriage. And now both can go into their own separate worlds with one truth. And that's how things come to be.
Perfect.
Man, I hope you guys are actually
We
listening.
play this part
and
every day
and taking notes, because this is the stuff we're talking about right now is the things that were the secret knowledge supposedly back in the day. It wasn't really secret. We all know that it was shared, but it was a lot of times shared in certain circles.
Right.
Definitely.
And they didn't put it out to the masses because they're like, well, if we give this to them, they're gonna have power now.
Yeah,
Right.
most definitely.
They'll know where we keep them.
Most
It's
definitely.
like, if they know they have all the power to change their circumstances and everything like that, why would they depend on us?
Most definitely.
Why would they think of themselves as a victim? If I know that everything is me, and I can change my circumstances anytime I choose to, by changing my mind, by like you said, going in that sanctorum, by connecting with that, and not letting blocking the rest of the world out. If I could change my own circumstances with that, I don't need you. I don't need you, government. I don't need to worry about who the president is or who this is or who's in charge.
I don't need to fear anymore. And if I don't fear, you have no control anymore.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely, absolutely. So definitely, man. If you're not taking notes right now, if you're not hype about this, I don't think you have a pulse. Because right now I got chills, so I'm just gonna say it. So the book, The Singular Truth.
Yes, sir.
What made you write The Singular Truth?
Man, a singular truth is what I've been shown over the last 20 years.
Okay.
It was written in the course of maybe 120 days. I'm gonna tell you about the book, man. It's what I was being shown from around 24 years old, and it's really roughly 20 years worth of me going through trials and errors, figuring things out and compressed into a book. But the thing is, I was writing this book for the last 2 years. For the last 2 years, and I was trying to write it. But the thing is, I had to be in a certain place to do it. And when I finally, again, being in a circle, fellowship with brothers, I finally found that space and got that final revelation to bring all the glue together. But that's really what it is, man. It's really a man from start to finish finding that truth, coming out of that sleep state, crossing that bridge, going through the trials and errors, going through the part of where he has to forgive, understanding his dark side, understanding all this stuff, and then stepping into that 2.0, 10.0 version of himself, which is walking in his I am, walking in his singular truth.
Yeah. And I think you said something key. You said, that dark side. And I think a lot of people, especially in the space of like healing and spirituality and everything like that, and I've said this before, they don't want to do that deep work, that shadow work. It's almost like a fear of that dark side. They just want to be in the light and do the foo-foo. It's like, the meditation is great, but things that happen a lot of times when you're getting deep into some of this stuff, when you're dealing with your shit, it can get dark at times. It's like, but and I've heard you say this in the video. It's like the darkness is where your treasures lie, but it's also where the demons.
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
It's like so many people are afraid to go in that darkness, even though that's where the treasures, where they get the most answers sometimes, because of what they're afraid they're gonna find. I personally was afraid of that for a long time. I was afraid to crack that door open and go into that room that I created myself, and I realize now that was just me in that room. On the other side of that door, all that shit, all the past trauma, all of that mess is like all the anger, all of that was me. It's like I was afraid of me for so long that I wasn't really willing to accept what was on the other side of the door, but I couldn't accept all of me either. I was only trying to be that. That show, the guy everybody liked, the dude who was always smiling, wearing the mask, kind of like almost you have in your book. I was always wearing that mask of like, everything's fine. Everything, people would ask me, he's like, you good? It's like, yeah, I'm good, man. Everything's fine. On the inside, I'm dying. It's like, and I was so afraid to look at that work that I ran from it for a while, and that's what I'm trying to tell guys. It's like, you gotta do that deep shadow work, man. If you don't address it, it doesn't go away. You just drag it with you. It's coming with you either way. Is that you might as well deal with that and step into that, because that's where your answers are a lot of times.
In the book, man, I refer to that space. I refer to it as the pasture.
I love that.
Yeah, and I say, you know what? The path to get to that light is a certain path, but you have to travel through that pasture. And once you cross that gate, like that's where those demons live. That's where that child abuse lives. That's where all those places we don't want to face live, but you have to go through it. But the thing is, the power is facing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, and I agree with you. I'm the same way, man. There was times where I understood certain things were inside of me that I just turned my head to.
Yeah.
But once we face those things, and the thing is, it's just a matter of us calling things what they are.
Yeah.
Meaning, if we had an uncle that did something wrong, or we had parents or teachers that did something wrong, we have to just call it what it is. And like I said earlier, like the only time I found myself angry at my father is when I went to that dark space and saw that he was human down there. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, he was just human. So, but once I called the things what they were, and forgave them, all that power that I've been giving them for years, it all came back to me. You know what I mean? And then I could just keep on going down the journey. That's one of the most crucial parts of traveling the journey, brother. Yeah. Going through that dark side and forgiveness. Like once you get past that, man, you're already a new being, brothers.
You had mentioned the kind of the versions of living in the light and living in the darkness.
Yeah.
I would like to argue that you don't even get the light until you go through the darkness. Think about a lotus flower. Where does it start? It starts in the mud at the bottom of the river. Then it springs up, and then you kind of get that. But there's still so much growth that has to take place in the unseen that you don't even know the light until you go through that first. How can you know
really know it?
Yeah. How do you know what your highest version of you are unless you know what your analog is? You know what I mean? Like where that bottom is. I was speaking to somebody a couple of months ago, and they were having questions with their faith. They were having problems with their faith, and they were like, "I think you found the thing I was looking for, and that I thought I already had." And what I really wanted to express to that person at the time was, you're not ready to go through what I went through to get that, because that's a long journey. You know, so you actually spend more time in the dark than you do in the light, and you don't realize it until you finally get a glimpse of who you are and where you're going. You know what I mean? Until you can really answer those questions, you've maybe cracked the door on light, but you're not letting the full light in. You know what I'm saying? So you know enough to get by as a person, but you're not fulfilled. You're not in love with yourself the way you should be. You don't know what your power is, but you have to go and find it first. I was talking to somebody that basically said, like, it's fairy tales. It's like, oh, there's a castle and a dragon and a knight and a princess and all that stuff. And it's like, you're actually every role in that story. You're the knight that's going to go beat the dragon. You're the dragon who's trying to stop the knight.
Hero's journey.
You're the princess that you're trying to go save. And what you're saving is the pieces of yourself that you have not been able to access until you go through that darkness first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I believe that you don't really know light until you experience the darkness. Because like if we sit in this room all day and never experience sunlight, we would say, okay, we're in this good energy, but we wouldn't really understand what this energy was unless we experienced its polar opposite. And then when you think about even going back to the Hermetic text, when it talks about God being the all, you can't say that since you're walking in light energy that you're plugged into God if you're ignoring half of God,
Right.
which is the darkness. So that's part of the beauty of going down to that dark side, seeing that trauma and all that stuff. Once you get past that, you see the things that generated those things, which is God also.
Mm-hmm.
You know that darkness, like God is that part anyway. And so it's all about balance. It's all about balance between light and once we understand that everything has polarity, that's when life begins to happen. Like that's when a man understands his higher mind and lower mind, or his ego self and Christ self work in harmony. That's when man can go to the second marriage of man and see that him being in his masculinity, his wife being in his femininity, that's the true marriage.
Right.
That's what he can go to his brother saying, you know what, I'm a whole man and I can see other whole men like me, and we can have a third level. Once a man understands that polarity, life happens, bro. So when a lot of religions are teaching only light, they have to understand that's a place of weakness.
Yeah.
Like when certain religions come knock on my door every on Sundays and they're talking only light and forgive. It's like no, you're trying to take my defensive mechanism away from me.
Right.
Like I want that dark. I don't want to have to go too deep in there, but if I have to, I want access to it. And you're telling me not to have access to it. That's how slavery and all that starts.
Yeah.
When you can put 2 men on a horse that can control 400, you've wiped out a people's defense mechanism. You know what I'm saying? You can do no wrong.
Man.
So that's why they want to keep us out of that light and dark, because once we have that darkness, our defense mechanism kicks up. Because now we're tied into God.
Right.
If we have to, even the Bible says there's a time to kill. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But if you're only light, you don't understand that.
That's why there's a phrase called the wrath of God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For
It's
sure.
balance.
And we talk about that, even with the martial arts. People think you learn martial arts to learn to fight. Is that you actually learn martial arts to fight the battle within, to fight that battle, to be able to fight that battle within. You have the desire. Yeah, when an argument starts, it's like, I really want to punch this guy in the face, but it's that discipline. It's like, nah, it's like I'm not going to do that. I don't need to, because I've already proven who I am. In where it matters. In the dojo with trained people. I know what I'm capable of. I know what's possible to me. I don't need to prove it to you, because you don't matter at the end of the day. It only matters what I feel and what I think. So I don't need to go out here and fight in the streets. If somebody steps in my shoes, I don't need to prove to you that I'm a man, because I know I'm a man. I know what I'm capable of. I know the violence inside of me. I know that dark side, and I can tap into it. It's like we talk about, you got to be able to, have that angel and that demon both inside of you. You walk through the world not with a balled fist, but an open hand, to give. But when necessary, you ball that fist up and deliver maximum devastation.
Yeah.
You got to be capable of both.
Have to be.
Because if you only walk around like this, it's like life's gonna get real hard for you. But if you only walk around like this, life's gonna run you over.
Yep.
Right.
Facts.
Yeah. So what's the solution? Just have a middle finger up, or just a couple of fingers?
Well, you could be a princess like Edmund, like in the story.
I got you.
When you said that, I was like, huh?
But
no, I get what you're saying.
It's
the hero's tale. It's the hero's tale.
Yeah.
So I'll just fuck with you.
No. But that's the thing that I think a lot of men don't realize is that the softer, if we're characterizing that, it's the softer parts of yourself that you don't allow to be exposed, and is being guarded by that dragon. You know what I'm saying? You think that ferocity that you have is being pointed in the right direction because you're a man and you're strong. No. It's the dragon is there when necessary, but the princess is there because that gives you inspiration. Whatever that is, the softer part of you that brings out that, if you're a loving father or you're an attentive husband, those type of things. That's a bit of the softer side and the nurturing side of a man that a lot of men don't allow themselves to express. You think you have to be the knight and the soldier all the time, or you just end up being the dragon. You're so multifaceted, but you can't see that because you're programmed by what society is telling you, and red pill and all this stuff. There's a lot of truth to some of that, but you have to be exposed to all the truths and then figure out what your truth is.
And it's so true. And one of those things that really has come up in the circle for me, especially on this trip, was, and I was talking to one of the guys about this, is like, I wasn't allowed to show emotions in my house. Is that you didn't cry.
Right.
It's like if something happened, you better not cry. As a dude, you better not cry. It's like, because you cry, you're gonna get it worse. This is what's gonna happen. But you also couldn't be angry because you.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's that in between where
it's
like,
it's
like if I cry, I get it worse. But if I get angry and I show any aggression, I'm getting it too. So you just go numb.
Yeah, that's the only word you're gonna use.
You know.
You being stripped of your essence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
So-
I think,
so- yeah.
and I think a lot of guys end up, going through this. They're not, you're not. It's almost bad to show, showing aggression as a man now is seen as like toxic masculinity, which is, we talked about. I actually hate that fucking term,
Yeah.
Right.
because there's not toxic masculinity or toxic femininity. There's just toxic fucking people in
Yeah.
this world.
Yeah.
It's like so, but
Yeah.
guys aren't allowed to actually show that and let that out. I ran across a lot of clients like that to where they can't show any aggression because the minute they start showing it, it's like snap.
Yeah.
It's almost like a dog that like starts to kind of
Yeah.
grab and it hit it,
Yeah.
real quick. It's like, so what do? He's like, you learn to stop growling. You learn not to show your
Yeah.
teeth. You
Yeah.
just scoot over. Anytime somebody flinches at you, you're like,
Yeah.
you're moving, and that doesn't serve you either because then you become neutered.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Exactly.
neutered men walking
That's
around
trauma
this world
by
right
itself.
now. Absolutely,
Exactly, man.
absolutely.
For sure. So,
So I did have one more.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you also talk about your dad a lot, but you also talk about your son quite a bit
Yes.
in the podcast, and your son gets the game, so which is it's hype. I'm sure there's people gonna be like, man, I wish my dad took me,
Right.
but he gets that inside baseball, it's like way before a lot of us figured this stuff out. So he's way ahead of the game, which is amazing. But there's a lot of guys in his generation, the generation right behind us, who aren't getting that game.
Facts.
So for guys in his generation dealing with some of the stuff they're dealing with, like having access over an almost overload of access to the internet and some of this information that you can really get in, dive down some rabbit holes on,
Right.
where you get too much into like the red pill so much that you go black pill.
Yeah.
With guys like, I'm never getting, you talk about videos, I'm never getting married. It's like, bro, you're 20.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But that was
It's
me.
like, oh, I'm sorry,
I didn't have that
you're
example.
17. What are you talking about? You're never gonna get
Yeah.
married. You don't
Right.
even know anything
Yeah.
yet, man.
You haven't lived yet, man.
But you know the examples of what you don't have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when nobody in your family is married, you don't have
Yeah.
good examples of what a nuclear family is supposed to look like. Like, why would I want any of that? And plus, you see the rest of the world getting divorced at
Yeah.
incredible rates. It's like, why would I do what is love? Why
Yeah.
would I want any of that?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Very true.
Yeah. So my question is like, for that generation, for your son, let's just say keep it for your son. If let's say tomorrow you just disappeared, you were gone, and all of your content, all of your book, everything that you had built up to this to now was going to go with you, and you could leave him one message.
Yeah.
What would you think that message would be for him?
I would say that message would be like I always say, man, to wake up and ask himself, who am I and where am I going? Like if I could leave my son one thing, it will be that. It will be to wake up every day, ask yourself, who are you, where are you going, and what is your own personal truth? I would tell him to always sit back and observe the world, observe the the other 7 billion truths.
Yeah.
But take that information and form his own and march to that beat. And to let him know that it's going to be hard. It's going to be like the fact that I'm not there. There's going to be a lot of challenges. But if he asks himself those questions every day, he'll never take 1 or 2 steps off the path.
Right.
That's going to recalibrate him every single time.
Right.
So that would be the one thing I would tell him. That would be the one thing I would tell any man.
Yeah.
To who are you? Like in other words, what's your purpose? Not only is what is your purpose when you do leave this planet, like I'm now gone. What do you want people to be saying about you? What piece of advice? What product? What project? What experiment do you want to have left this planet?
Yeah.
What do you want people to be saying about you for the next 100 years?
Yeah.
Once a man identifies that and makes that his end goal and makes that the path that he's traveling, then he'll never, then he'll like we always said, he'll find his power circle along the way, because he will only associate with people that move in that same energy, not have the same passions or have the same things, but to have that same direction. It's all about direction, bro.
Right.
Because I can remember when I wasn't asking myself those questions, I was wandering.
Yeah.
I was moving, but I was going down the wrong road, man.
Yeah.
But once I had my own truth and said, this is where I'm going, regardless, nobody else is agreeing to it, this is where I'm going. Everything, the world aligned to that. So that would be the one thing I would tell any young man that doesn't have a father, that doesn't have an uncle, that doesn't have a circle, that's not eligible or not old enough to go into the military, and he's sitting there looking at the world. He sees men moving in a good energy, some are married, he sees the gang bangers and drug dealers. I would say to him, take all that data and then form his own truth as if he's on the planet by himself and walk to that beat, and everything will line up. He's going to have some hard times, but things have to line up when a man walks in his truth.
Yeah.
It has to, because it's your truth. It just depends on what you call it,
Mhm.
what you define it. And if you define it to be something peaceful, even if you grow up in a household and there's toxicity or
Yeah.
whatever, or there's an imbalance because one person is going or not, take that for what it is, man, and say, you know what, okay, I learned from that,
Yeah.
but that's not my truth.
Right.
Like a lot of us grow up, man, and reinvent the same wheel over and over. Especially like if you saw a father that was moving a certain way or a mother moving a certain way, we counterbalance that because we're calling that our truth.
Right.
Like a lot of us had a parent that was abusive or a parent that was cheating. We'll only be attracted to those type people because it's our truth.
Right.
And even though we don't like it, there's peace in our truth being fulfilled.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So a man just, who am I? Where am I going? What's my own personal truth? And start moving. He'll be all right, man.
Wow.
He'll be okay.
Man, that we could just have the whole video be that just right there.
I did.
So,
go ahead.
No,
I was gonna say I did want to give a testimony to your book because two things happened when you released this book. I first sent it to my brother. Ever since I was in the power, so I'm like, oh, my brother needs this. My older brother, I just want him to be a part of it. I want him to have his power. Any way I can get access to it, he got to have it. And then I was thinking, like, I don't know where to start. How do I bring information to somebody who might not even be looking for it?
Right.
Your book came out, and I was like, boom, sent it to him. He was done in 2 days.
Really?
And this man, we had never had a spiritual conversation in our whole relationship. You know what I mean? And my blood brother. And he was spitting out these words to me that I had never heard him say. And it put him in a place and just the way, not to get into his business, but just the way his life was moving. This came at the perfect time.
Nice.
This is my birthday gift to him. And he was like, just, man, thank you. And I got to say thank you to you, man, because as much as we try to sharpen each other, we're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing this for other people. We want to be able to help our families and help our friends and help our community and help the world one way or another. Like you said, we want to have some type of legacy. And that legacy is a word that's thrown around a lot and it has different meanings to different people. But ultimately, it's what do you want to leave behind, whether it's to your family or the people, whoever is going to remember you for however long that they do. They need to know that it was something positive that you gave. And this book could sit, in his room forever, but his daughter might pick this up one day, or his granddaughter might pick it up one day, or his grandson, or my nephew, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? This isn't just a book. This is power. But you have to look for it. But it just you can find it everywhere. You know what I mean? And so definitely pick up A Singular Truth. Where can we find your book?
You can find it on Amazon. You can get the ebook on Amazon, or you can just go to asingulartruth.com and get either the regular copy or an autographed copy.
Awesome. I highly recommend the autographed copy. So this man blessed your book for you. You know it came from him. Man, anything else you want to?
So my question for you is, who are you?
Man, I'm a man. First off, I am soul. I'm pure energy, brothers. We all are. And as far as who I am and what my mission is. My mission is to serve the young man that you talk about. You know what I mean? To serve, what I want to get back to this planet is what I needed most when I needed it most.
Right.
And that's coming into, adulthood, whether it's 16, 17, 21, and realizing that it's time for me to start moving in my own direction, but having no idea what that direction is. What I needed was somebody in position that I could see moving in a solid energy that was talking from a solid foundation and was giving me direction. Giving me direction by telling me, one, how they moved wrong, and then what they did to make it right. So that's who I am, and that's my mission. That's what I'm going to do until I die, or until Source Energy directs me toward a different goal, man.
Love it, man. Love it, man. You guys had to have gotten so much out of it. I did. This is kind of stuff I at one point forgot we were even filming. I was so in this conversation, and we've been doing this all weekend.
Right.
I
never get tired.
I completely forgot about this for a second. It's like I was in it. I was asking questions I wanted to know. But guys, man, definitely check us out, man. We will be putting this up on everywhere we have our YouTube channel, everywhere we have podcasts. YouTube has a podcast now. Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
everywhere podcasts are found.
Amazon Music. So anywhere podcasts are found, definitely check us out on all the social media: Instagram,
YouTube.
TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, all those places. We'll definitely be linking up Soul's channel as well, because definitely check out his channel. Because like I said, if it wasn't for either one of us checking out that channel, this wouldn't even be going on right now.
Right.
So, so that definitely, will fill in a lot of the gaps, man. There's a lot of great information out there, and it's coming from a great source and a guy who, is doing it for the right reasons. Really is, definitely.
So, thank you so much for coming.
Thank y'all, man.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate y'all, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Man, love y'all. Love y'all, brothers, man.
All right, man. So definitely check it out, man. Stay tuned, cause and keep in that fight and keep living your truth, because you much rather be a warrior in a garden
In a garden and a war.
Take it easy, guys.
Peace.
Out.